You are listening to Viewpoints from PlaceCloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
It's Sunday, June the 18th, 1978. And if you were to stand on the edge of Hyde Park and look up at the Dorchester Hotel, you might see through one of the windows Andy Warhol staring impassively back at you. Warhol is in London for 1 week to see the opening of his Athletes series at the Institute of Contemporary Art. It's a series of 10 portraits, including Muhammad Ali, O.J. Simpson and Pelé, in Warhol's standard garish pop colours. They were saleable business paintings. At least they were intended to be. As it was, they sold terribly, and critics yawned. Even today they are taken more seriously as sports memorabilia than Warhol artworks. These shallow gestures had led the critical establishment to largely give up on Warhol, considering him a mere society painter. In fact, the well-oiled human machine that was his art workshop, The Factory, was falling apart by 1978, the facade of good times cracking. Nearly everyone surrounding Warhol had drink and drug problems and were beginning to break down. Most significantly, Warhol's long-term relationship with interior decorator Jed Johnson had crumbled, thanks in part to Warhol's orgiastic photography sessions. 3 months before the England trip, Johnson had attempted suicide a second time. Johnson, unsurprisingly, was unable to join Warhol in London. Warhol commented cruelly and sarcastically on his flight, "Gee, every seat is full, except Jed's." Not that his partner's unhappiness had much impact on Warhol, judging from his diaries anyway. He loves Britain and the British. He has special praise for the phone operators at the Dorchester, who are so great, very sharp. They screen every call, and they know where you are every minute. He even decides that London this time was so much fun, better than New York in the 60s. Of course, the crises surrounding him could have been part of the fun. Warhol was a fan of manipulation, public humiliation, of setting those around him against one another. Pop artist Ronnie Cotrone describes Warhol as what they call in Alcoholics Anonymous a para-alcoholic, just attracted unconsciously to people with compulsive problems. Warhol's companions that week in June include his manager Fred Hughes, friend and jet-setter Bianca Jagger, who had divorced Mick Jagger only a month previously, and the editor of his interview magazine, Bob Colacello. When Fred Hughes collapses on Monday the 19th of June at the Turf Club, a gentleman's club on the Mall, sobbing that all his great friends from the 19th century had died, it's Colacello who takes care of him. In Warhol's diary, however, it is just a girl. On Tuesday the 20th, Warhol goes to 2 more parties, hosted by socialites. Pat Harmsworth on Eaton Square, a stone's throw away from the Dorchester, and Nonna Gordon Summers on Glebe Place, 3 stones throws, perhaps. The latter party is sort of like Arabian Nights, Warhol says, because that's the kind of house Nonna's is. And it's being held for Bob Dylan. Bianca Jagger raves about how Dylan's after her, but by the end of the evening she's insulted. Dylan had wanted to take her in his tour bus, which was parked outside. He hadn't even found a limo for her. Back in 1965, Dylan had sat sullenly for one of Warhol's screen tests, silent filmed portraits, and took a silver Elvis screen print as payment. At this party, Dylan openly admits that he'd traded it for a sofa. Warhol's reaction is characteristically blank, so what Robbie Robertson told me a few weeks ago was true. Warhol only gets to his Athletes Gallery show on Wednesday the 21st for the press conference and opening, even though the Institute of Contemporary Arts is only a 15-minute walk away from his hotel room. A huge crowd gathers, with lots of punks, but Warhol thinks the show looked really terrible. and the art critics agreed with him. There's a party afterwards at the Dorchester, another parade of the rich and famous. Rock Hudson, with his big butch 60-year-old boyfriend, and Jack Nicholson, who's in London filming The Shining. Warhol vaguely adds, "I guess we forgot to invite Shelley Duvall." But Warhol isn't as excited as he had been the previous night. He's too tired even to join the kids out at the clubs, the Embassy Club or Tramps or Annabelle's. It's a strange, short week, and on Thursday the 22nd he flies back to New York. "London was just so much fun that I had to leave," he says in his diary. For those of us who aren't Warhol, however, it is perhaps difficult to pinpoint the fun to be had in the brief meetings between famous semi-acquaintances, peppered with disappointment.